Good afternoon. We are finishing up Unit 10 today. This is our last objective. Next week, tomorrow we know is our math testing, computer testing for math. Friday is retake day, so if you have practice work you need to do, I will be returning your retakes from last week tomorrow, so you'll know that if you pass them. Monday we will be a review day for Unit 10. Tuesday is the practice test. Wednesday will be our real test. Today we are doing that last objective, PO63. I can interpret and write inequality statements. So an inequality compares values that are not necessarily equal. So we know that inequality is less than, greater than. Those are inequalities. So they're not necessarily equal. They could be less than or equal to, could be equal, could be greater than or equal to, could just be less than, could just be greater than. Ben?
So you said that are necessarily equal?
That are, thank you,
Yeah, that's what I was
that are not. I forgot to write that word. That are not necessarily equal. So compares values that are not necessarily equal. So these are four symbols used with inequalities. Complete the table below with words or phrases that are used with each one. So let's look at that first symbol. What do you think of with this symbol? What words?
More than.
Look at the first symbol. Less than. What's another way of saying less than, Edward? We wouldn't say lesser. We wouldn't say for lesser 5. Would we say for least 5?
No. Leaster.
That doesn't quite make sense. Instead of saying less than, we could say fewer than. 4 is fewer than 5. We could also say below. 4 is below 5. Okay. He actually only has 3 for this one. Yeah. Less than is proper grammar. Lesser than would not be proper grammar. Let's look at our next one. If this was less than, what would this one be? Greater than. I heard somebody else say more than.
More. Above.
And above. 5 is above 4. 5 is greater than 4. 5 is more than 4. Now it's going to get a little bit different. Let's look at this symbol. What the first one is a little bit easier. It's what we always say with it. What do we say when we see that symbol, Colin? At least goes over here. It needs to be at least 4. If you're saying at least, it can be more than 4. If it's at least 4, it can be bigger than 4. At most would be on this side. It is at most 4. It can't be over that. It has to be 4 or less. If it's at most 4. When we see that symbol, I always say one thing in my head when I say it. What do you think is the most common thing that you would say when you see that symbol? Colin?
less than or equal to?
Less than or equal to. So when you see that symbol, usually in the younger grades, we say less than or equal to. Your number is less than or equal to. We need to know the different words that would be in a word problem that would clue you in that that's the symbol we're using. Any guesses on our other two choices? Nathan?
For the left one?
For the less than or equal to? Because there's two more spots we need to fill in. Andrea? Say it louder. But it's not below then because it can be equal to. Caitlin? We're going to say maximum. There's a maximum of 4. There could be less than 4, but it's a maximum of 4. So it's not just 4, that's just the most that you can have. The maximum of. Edward? Up to.
Yeah.
That technically does work. It's not an option that he has as a common word problem phrasing. So I think that would work. What he has is no more than. They're all basically saying the same thing. He just wrote down the most common phrases. So yours was not wrong. It just, I don't think is one of the most common. So less than or equal to, you could see it as a maximum. What is the maximum number of books you could buy? What is at most that you could have? You could have no more than. They all mean less than or equal to. So let's look at our next symbol. Ben?
I was just going to ask with the less than and greater than ones, smaller and bigger one. Like 4 is smaller than 5.
We won't see that written in a word problem like that though. Because it's not smaller, it's less. There's nuances.
Smaller number.
But is it smaller? It's a less, there's less to it. So we're looking at technicalities. Paisley. Yeah. The minimum amount that you can have. Pearson?
Equal to or more to? Like more than. Or like more than or equal.
Instead of more, we're going to say greater. Greater than, because we don't say more than or equal to. We say greater than or equal to. So instead of saying no more than, Nathan, no less than. So now it gives us some examples of some inequality graphs. So if we're looking at these, look at the symbols, and I want you to look at the circles and the arrows, which way they're pointing. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is say if it has an equal sign, if it's less than or greater than or equal to, what do we notice about our circle? It's filled in. So the circle gets filled in if we have the equal sign a part of our inequality. So it is filled in. Do you want me to move it up? Can you see okay? You just got to sit tall. All right, so if it has the equal part, a part of it, you fill in the circle. Notice how if there's no equal sign, it's an open circle. Here we have the equal sign, so it's a filled in circle. So if there's no equal sign, open circle. Now look at the way the arrows are pointing. If it's less than, the arrow points the same direction. We know we're going to be going to the left. If it's greater than, our arrow is pointing to the right. The arrow goes the same direction as your symbol goes. So less than is pointing to the left, so our arrow goes to the left. Greater than, oh, this is a less than, so it's going to the left. Because those numbers are going smaller. Going to the left on the number line means that they are getting fewer. Going to the right, greater than, the numbers are growing. Colin.
If you also think of it, I remember in the younger grades, thought of it as an alligator across the bigger number.
Pac-Man.
Friends, I'll wait. Shh. We're doing a little bit more with this than what we did in the younger grades. So we don't just want to know greater than, less than, what it means. We're actually thinking about how we graph it. Because in the younger grades, we weren't graphing it. So now we need to look at what that graph looks like. If there's the equal sign, it's filled in. If it's greater than, it's pointing to the right, so our line goes to the right. Because it's greater than, the numbers are getting bigger. Less than, the numbers are getting smaller. Okay? Now let's move it up and see what this means for our work. Write each inequality statement a second way using an inequality symbol. Write it as a verbal phrase and graph it on a number line. Whew. So I see the word and, so he wants us to do all of this. He didn't actually write it out verbally, but you're going to write it with words. So when he says, write in each inequality statement a second way using an inequality symbol, n is greater than 11, how can I turn that statement around? Nope. Chase?
You could do 11 is less than n.
Yeah. If n is greater than 11, 11 is less than n. So then he says, write it as a verbal phrase. So I could say n is less than.
N is more than.
Sorry, thank you. I was looking at, oops. N is greater than 11. So that's my verbal phrase. I'm using my words. Then he says graph it on a number line. So I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to say, okay, here's my 11. So now I need my circle and I need my arrow line. What kind of circle am I going to do? Open or closed?
Open.
Why open? There's no equal sign under it. So I'm not going to go directly on the line because I want to draw my arrow line. So I'm going to go just above it. Am I going to go to the left or to the right?
Good afternoon. For Wednesday afternoon announcements, I need to tell you it is 60 and sunny. So please go home and enjoy being outdoors. And Sam Anderson, could you please bring yourself to the office? You arrived here. Thank you.
And we knew that was coming. Okay, so n is greater than 11. So we're graphing n. So don't look at this one and say, oh, it's less than, I'm going to the left, because we're graphing our variable. N is greater than 11, so N is going to be greater than 11.
You should do this for everyone.
You are doing all three parts. You're rewriting it, you're putting it in words, and you're graphing it for this first page. Now let's look at our second page. Write each situation as an inequality statement, then wrap it on a number line. So we don't have to write it verbally because they're writing it verbally. So your mom gives you $20 for a trip to Target. Thank you, Mom. Show how much money you can spend. You can spend at Target. Are we spending all of our $20 at Target? Maybe. Owen's definitely going to make sure he gets it down to that penny. He's spending it all. I like to put some in savings, so I might spend half of it and put half of it in my piggy bank for another time. What is my inequality statement going to look like? We want to start with our variable. Maddie?
You could do N, and then you, what is that variable called? The one with the thing and the line under it, less than equal to,
Less than or equal to.
and then you give me 20.
So N, how much can you spend, is less than or equal to 20. Owen's going to go all the way up to 20. I'm going to go to 10 because I want some in my pocket. Now I need to graph it. So I'm going to draw my line. I see my 20 there, so I'm going to put a 20. What is my circle going to look like, Katie?
Closed.
Why closed?
Because if it's open, that means that you can't spend 20.
Right. If it's open, you can't spend 20. We have equal to, less than or equal to, so it's closed. It can be 20. I can go all the way to 20, down to the last penny. Now I need to draw my line. Which way is my line going to go, Paul?
Left.
To the left. Less than is to the left. I can do any of these numbers leading up to 20. I can't go over 20, so I don't want my line to go over 20. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions? So on the first side that gives you one statement, you're just reversing the statement. You're writing it in words and you're graphing it. On the second page, he's giving you the words. You have to write what the statement looks like, and then you have to graph it. So you're doing 3 things on the front, 2 things on the second page. For my friends at home, we hope you are well, and we hope to see you soon.